Coming up on today's show, we have the one and only Nathan Firesheets, who just completed 12 parks in 12 days. It's coming up next on Traveling with the Mouse. Welcome, everyone, to Traveling with the Mouse. I am your host this week. I am Jason. This is episode 398 of Traveling with the Mouse, a very special episode because we have a guest. But before we get to that, let's introduce my esteemed and storied, acclaimed, amazing co-hosts. First, we have Adam.
Whoa, what's up, everybody? Me?
How are you feeling tonight, Adam?
Great.
Great? Good. And we have John.
Good evening, everyone. I usually have a quip here, but I'm fresh out of quips at the moment. I can't think of an appropriate one. Oh, well.
It's been a long day.
I know.
It's been a long day.
I'm fresh out.
Well, maybe you'll get a quip somewhere along the way as we chat tonight. And in addition to my usual co-host, we also have Nathan Firesheets. Welcome, Nathan.
Howdy, howdy. Glad to be here.
Golf clap.
Golf clap. Welcome aboard. If you're a longtime listener of the show, you'll know this is our second time having Nathan on. The last time was when you completed your Coast to Coast challenge. So I think you eclipsed that, but how long ago was that? That was like...
It was the end of 2019.
End of 2019. Wow. That was a good year for
COVID.
challenge runs. I remember that year.
It really was.
Right before COVID ended. That's when I got my completion in. And people were doing a challenge like every weekend. Maybe eventually we'll get back to that. You know, between your challenge and the brothers completing, I don't know, maybe we'll got a new renaissance coming.
Yeah, I think this is potentially the start of a new challenge era.
There we go. So it's been tough to get you booked because, you know, you've become a popular guy. You did 12 parks in 12 days. I think you've done 12 podcasts in 12 hours or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what that was.
There's definitely been a lot of interviews.
It has been. And I was following along. I know we were as you were prepping for this, and it was amazing to see your follower counts grow. And for those of you who aren't aware, most listeners to our show are probably challenge enthusiasts, so they probably already know. But Nathan took on all 12 parks, Disney parks, across the world in 12 consecutive days and rode every single ride. Unlike the other challenges we've seen.
Every
operating ride.
A lot of stuff, down for refurbishment.
Yeah, the typical challenge rules. It's been a long time since anybody's ridden every ride at any given park because Disney no longer does that apparently anymore.
Yeah, they released the Tokyo refurb schedule a couple of days ago, and there's not a single day between now and when that schedule ends on October 31st that they don't have at least one ride down for refurb.
I believe we talked about this, that right when they brought the train back at Disney World, there was a very short time where technically everything at Disney World was open, right? Before Rock and Roller Coaster went back down, wasn't there like a very,
maybe?
I don't know.
But it also wouldn't surprise me if there was some random other thing down, right then too. I wasn't paying close enough attention, but
yeah. I don't know. Rockin' went down pretty quick.
But they brought the train back, and then they took Splashdown forever, and then they, put Rockin' under refurb.
Right.
But I think there was like a 5-day or 6-day period where everything was going.
Might have been.
Yeah, I think there was.
But there was no opportunity for a challenge because, as we know now, the key for the parkeology for Disney World is you need the extended evening hours, right? So that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to.
So, but that's not the challenge we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about, what did you call it?
The Disney Global Ride Challenge.
Disney Global Ride Challenge. So this was sort of inspired by parkeology and every ride and those folks, but it wasn't official. This is your own cooked up version of a challenge, which I know you've done in the past. I know you've done parkeology multiple times, every ride multiple times, every ride coast to coast, every attraction at Disneyland in one day, oxygen free a couple of times. So what sort of originally got you to first consider this challenge? What inspired you? Was it why you were on one of these challenges, post challenge, just looking for something new to do?
Originally, this came about because I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do for my big vacation for 2023. last year
Huh.
I did a 2.5-week coastering tour of Germany.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And this
Yeah.
year I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do? And I started ideating last year for this year. And I started looking at a lot of the parks in Europe I wanted to visit, and they'd already made announcements of cool new rides they're opening in 2024. So I went, I don't want to do a trip to this region or that region and miss out on all that. It's like, well, what can I do? It's like, well, I haven't been to some of the international Disney parks. And yes, I know basically all the Disney parks are building cool new things and that I'm going to have to go back and ride those eventually. I get that. But
Right.
that's where this started from is, maybe this is the year I go visit these other Disney parks. And then somewhere in that time period was when the $110,000 Adventures
Yeah, I
by
remember
Disney
that, yeah.
luxury private jet tour
Right.
to all the parks, was announced.
Yeah.
And I went, I could do that better.
Yeah.
What would
For
it
cheaper.
Yeah, but much cheaper. But what
Right.
what would it look like to try to string all the parks together into one trip? To have enough time at the parks to really see and do everything. What would that take? And then I kind of threw some initial thing together. So maybe a 2-week trip or so, and maybe I could try to do all the rides at the parks or something. But I had to shelve it because at the time you couldn't get into China. Nobody could get into
Right.
China. You couldn't
Right,
get
right.
into Japan. You certainly couldn't get between China and Japan. So
Yeah.
that
And you
basically
didn't
was
want to
this.
go to China because they'd lock you in there if you.
Yeah,
even
I mean, yeah.
sniffled.
Even if you could get in, you had a mandatory 2-week quarantine and all kinds of stuff. So
Right.
that was basically in August, and then I just had to shelve it. It's like, this is a concept of something I'd like to do sometime in 2023, but I have absolutely no idea what China's going to do with their policies. When is this going to be viable? Is it going to be at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, any time at all in 2023? I had no idea. So I just kind of kept my eye on it, and every time I saw a news article of another restriction lifting or another mandate dropping or
Right.
the quarantine period dropped from 14 days to 3 days, or it was, hey, you have to come in, you can't go to certain places, but you can go to other places, just each little incremental change, it was like, okay, we're a step closer, And then finally in early January, the last, big restriction dropped, and I went, okay, this is possible now. But I have to figure out when I can afford to disappear for 2 weeks on vacation for work between
Yeah.
all of our projects and not, have a big issue. And I found a window in mid-March that I could go. And then it was like, okay, what are the flights? What are the park hours? What does this look like if I start to actually daisy chain this trip together? And
Yeah.
then that's where I basically was forced into this kind of 12-day period. But I did add a little bit of time on the front end and the back end, a little bit of extra at Disneyland Paris and then at Walt Disney World. But the challenge itself landed at this really nice, poetic 12 parks in 12 days, which I think is much better than 12 parks in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have had more time in Shanghai and Hong Kong, but Hong Kong Disneyland, they're not operating on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's just not open. And
Yeah.
so I was there on a Sunday afternoon and Monday morning. So, I couldn't
that was
really
it.
extend that. Shanghai, I was there on a Saturday and I only really had the one day, but that was forced the way it was because there are only 3 flights a week from Paris to Shanghai now that are direct. It's Air France. Pre-pandemic, they ran 3 flights a day. Now it's 3 flights a week. So
Wow.
I was very constrained in my flight options. And even my flight from Hong Kong to Tokyo, the original flight was in the evening, and that was going to give me a lot more time in Hong Kong. But that flight got canceled like 2 weeks before the trip, and I had to rebook on another flight that was like 2 or 3 hours earlier at considerable additional expense. But it was either that or the red eye and get no sleep. So I had to deal with a lot of trade-offs like that. But I think I'm pretty happy with how it all landed. There was enough time to see the parks, do all the rides, get some re-rides, see some shows, eat some food, explore some walkthroughs.
I think, yeah,
Nice.
as for folks that have done like Parkeology or every ride at Disney World where you try to do 4 parks in one day, that is, you don't enjoy anything. You don't get to stop.
Well,
Right.
I will counter that by saying the most fun that I ever had on a Parkeology run was my very first successful WDW completion, which was on Galaxy's Edge opening day, where
Yeah.
there were so few people in the park outside of the rope drop at Galaxy's Edge, which was insane.
Oof,
Yeah, I
right.
remember that. That was bad.
Yeah, but I was able to do all the rides without using fast passes. And what that
Yeah,
meant
right.
was for the first time on a Disney World run, I wasn't spending the entirety of
On your
every
phone.
ride refreshing trying to get better fast passes.
Yeah.
And the difference between that and what the prior norm had been was so huge because I was actually able to enjoy all the rides on a run. And
Right.
that was just reinforced why I love doing runs at Disneyland so much more. Because at Disneyland, you pull your fast pass, your lightning lane, and then generally it's good, and then you have it and you move on, and then you can pay attention to the rides. But at Disney World, there's so
Yeah.
few rides at the parks, and all of them are really high in demand lightning lanes that you have no choice but to sit there and refresh until you get the time that you want, and it takes you out of the experience of enjoying the rides in the park.
Yeah.
So
Like being on Rock and Roller Coaster, pulling fast passes.
I may
Jason.
have done that. I may
I,
have been
I
doing
don't
that.
think I was ever pulling on Rock and Roller Coaster, but definitely like
did.
Spaceship Earth, or just some of the
Right.
some of the other dark rides, or it's just you're just sitting there constantly refresh, and you can't pay attention
Yeah.
to anything.
Right.
Yeah, Jason,
it's-
in all your on-ride photos, why were you looking down all the time?
Yes.
I mean, I was gripping my phone on Rock and Roller Coaster, like refresh.
God.
It was.
I don't know how
Adam's
you
like,
focus.
what are you doing?
I just look over like, how are you able to even see your phone? Like, yeah, he's a
But-
beast.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of Disney World rides that I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to.
There were entire scenes on Spaceship Earth that I had forgotten existed because I was so used to spending the whole ride refreshing for fast passes.
And when did they
Yeah.
update that scene?
Yeah.
It's always
Well,
been
they,
there.
they were supposed to update the whole thing, but they didn't.
It got JPEG'd.
Yeah, it got
a lot of
JPEG.
things did.
But I think the
Budgeted.
difference is in this particular challenge, right? The challenge less was once you got there. To be fair, I mean, I was just in Disneyland Paris for the first time. I think outside of the fact that you had to leave to get a COVID test, there wasn't a whole lot that would have stopped you from riding everything. They had you can fit it all in one day.
I
nicely.
left the park for 3 hours in the middle of the day, and the only reason I didn't get every ride that day was because it rained and Autopia didn't reopen because of the rain. And
Yeah.
the horse-drawn streetcars didn't come out at all because it was raining. Otherwise, even losing 3 hours in the middle of the day, I would have easily been able to do both parks. But I didn't know that going in,
Yeah.
because I'd
right.
never been before. I'd never experienced the parks. But also, let's say I did do everything in a day. That's great. I still couldn't have done everything and made a 9 p.m. flight to Shanghai.
Right.
Yeah, especially in the middle of a transit strike where the 10-minute TGV isn't an option anymore. So,
Crazy.
that's one of the things that, a lot of people are gonna that know Disneyland Paris know that, you can really crank through that pretty fast. But the flight is it's a 9 p.m. flight Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday.
Yeah.
Are you really willing to chance the entire thing on you being able to get through everything at both parks at Disneyland Paris by like 5:30 p.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It-
like
it-
it might be possible. It's going to be right there on the edge, but is it close enough that you're willing to risk the first park on the first day of the whole trip on?
Right.
And then even
a
with
lot.
that, again, are you going to enjoy it? See, I have this whole thing where I think this could be done in as little as 8 or 9 days under perfect conditions. If you had the right flight times, if you didn't have to leave for a COVID test, if you had good crowd levels, like you didn't accidentally plan it on top of spring break, like if you had a lot of things going your way and a little bit more optimization, I think it could be done in as little as 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be fun.
Right.
Well,
Because
no, it
you
wouldn't
lose
be
the opportunity.
fun.
You lose that extra time for re-rides, to see walk-through attractions, to see the nighttime spectaculars, all that extra stuff that I was able to do because I built a little bit of extra time into my schedule.
Right.
And that's the difference between I mean, yes, I more or less speed ran the parks, but I still felt like I got a really good feel for all they have to offer. Now, I'm not a character person. Like, character meet and greets aren't my thing. I'm not. Shows are cool, but all the shows overseas are basically going to be in foreign languages, and that's not super enjoyable to me. The nighttime spectaculars, you can enjoy because it's music and fireworks and projections. So I feel like for me and my interests, I was really able to get the fullest experience out of that, especially with the time that I had to go back and re-ride things and all that. But, your mileage is going to vary if your interests vary and all that. But I don't think I would have enjoyed it if it was just do the rides and then go leave and get on a plane.
Did you get to catch the drone show at Disneyland?
I did not get to catch the show at Walt Disney Studios. None of my timing ended up working out for that, but I did get to see the fireworks and the projections at Disneyland Paris.
Well, they're supposed to also have the drones at Paris that does the 30.
Okay.
Right?
So
but they didn't do that my night that I was there either because of rain and wind.
Because I had rain for mine, so I didn't see any of that in my...
I was there, 4 or 5 days after you.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't very long.
It was,
The other fun adventure was the weather was just all over the place on this trip. Paris was cold and rainy, and then, you get to China, and, Shanghai is nice and comfortable. Hong Kong is hot and humid. And then, Tokyo, it's 46 degrees, and I'm riding Splash Mountain in shorts and a t-shirt.
Oh, wow.
So that was that. There's adventures. There's lots of adventures to this.
Well, you got to ride Splash Mountain, I guess.
Yeah.
Before long, that'll be the only Splash Mountain left.
Yeah. And that
We'll see how long.
That was pretty much a mirror image of Florida, right? Pretty close.
I think it's similar to the one in Florida, but I don't think it's quite the same. I think
Quite
there's
exactly
differences
okay.
in the ride layout and what it does. The drop sequence, I think, is a little different. Certainly, it's much less wet. And for that, I was very thankful.
That's good.
I'd say that Tokyo has a habit for taking what they consider the best of the American parks, and typically that would be considered better than Disneyland's, Magic Kingdom's was. So that's why
certainly
I was
the
curious.
longer one, for sure.
Yeah. Did I understand hearing you, this is your first time you've gone to any of the international parks too, by the way, right?
5 years ago, I spent a day each at Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea, but I've never been to Paris, Shanghai, or Hong Kong before.
Okay, so Tokyo you'd been to before.
Yeah,
Okay,
just one day at each park, but enough to have passing familiarity with them.
Gotcha.
And that was all pre-challenges, so I wasn't looking at them, as a challenge runner back then.
Gotcha.
Did you go into the parks in China and Paris with a plan? Like, did you research, I'm going to take this route? Or were you just let me just
wait
go?
Time, study wait times and stuff?
So I had some general ideas, in my big spreadsheet that I had for all the rides that I used to auto-generate my tweet text with the timestamps and the ride numbers.
Yeah.
I had a column where I had columns off to the side where I marked, is this ride available for early entry? Does it have single ride, or does it have a line skip option? Right. And then does it have limited park hours? Yeah. And then anything that had limited park hours, the spreadsheet highlighted that ride in yellow so it would show up as a higher priority. There were a couple parks that I had, here is my kind of plan. I'm going to go ride 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the priority hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically in Shanghai, I had that.
I saw that. That was where you had to ride jetpacks. It was jetpacks.
Yeah, that was so the jetpacks. If you look on the app, that's regularly like a 50 to 70 minute wait, and it's a weird little spinner that shouldn't get that wait. But
so it's the Astro Orbiter.
It is, but it's not that kind of seating. It's like two across with like a shoulder harness in a seat. It's really weird.
But it's the same as Astro Orbiter it's always a 45-minute wait to get the Astro Orbiter because of that stupid
elevator.
Elevator. The elevator. Yeah, but this doesn't have an elevator. It's just flat. It's just for whatever reason, it just takes.
Popular.
But it's because everything in Shanghai, the park is underbuilt for the crowds that it gets.
Sure.
The rides that it has are generally cool. It's just it needs double the ride capacity of what it has.
Yeah.
So regularly you'll have rides like the jetpacks or Dumbo or the carousel hitting an hour, and Soarin' will be 3 hours.
Good Lord.
And it's just it's the same Soarin' we have. Same deal as in Tokyo where it'll be 2.5, 3 hour line. The only difference is the last scene is the local local park or local city instead of being Disneyland or Epcot.
I'm not sure about the Soarin' here. They have this scene of what looks to be like Epcot, but it looks very different. It doesn't have all the construction. Doesn't have
Journey of water.
Journey of water.
Right.
The funny thing is, all of the Sorens that have that final scene. Well, I guess I can't say all of them because Shanghai's it's the downtown Shanghai cityscape, skyscrapers and stuff, and then there's just fireworks like in the middle of the city. And it's like that feels silly. In Japan, they do downtown Tokyo, and then they do a quick fade cut thing, and then you're back in Disneyland for the fireworks.
Interesting.
But what's interesting that I hadn't really paid attention to is at the end of the one in California, that final scene is the fireworks over Disneyland. But all the other parks, it's the fireworks over the park where the ride is.
Yeah.
So in Epcot, you don't get fireworks over Magic Kingdom, you get fireworks over Epcot.
Yeah.
But the one in Disneyland, it's the other park. But the fireworks over the Pixar Pal Around doesn't really have the same
not quite
panache. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. But fundamentally, the Soarin' Around the World film is the same Soarin' Around the World film all around the world.
All right.
And I was very thankful for the over California stint for when I was in DCA, just to change the pace a little bit.
Nice. That's the only one that's good.
Well, see, I'm going to upset some people. Soarin' over California, I like the concept better, but man, that footage has not aged well.
That's true.
That's
the Golden Gate Bridge when it's all like fuzzy and
it's grainy, it's shaky. I do not understand how Disney has not just taken some 8K cameras and some drones and just recreated that. It can't possibly be that expensive to do, considering the money they blow on other nonsense. Just recreate the film with modern camera technology.
At this point, all they have to do is ask that new GPT thing, not to just make it the one that makes videos.
Yeah, just AI generate the whole thing. Why not?
I don't know. So the latest in the AI generation thing, I don't know if y'all saw the Will Smith eating spaghetti AI generated video that it looks like a horror movie because it. Anyway, you just Google that a little bit later.
Okay. I will Google that. Should I Google it now or wait till later?
Maybe.
And we'll be right back.
Greenlight is a debit card for kids and teens. And now Greenlight has a credit card for parents. Meet the Family Cash Card. Parents can earn up to 3% cash back on every dollar spent. You can choose to auto-invest your cash back to pay for your kids' college. Use it to apply to your balance. Or send your cash back straight to your wallet. It's basically cash back your way, every day. Get started today at greenlight.com.
And we're back.
When I saw your route, when I heard you were doing this, I was trying to guess where you were going to start. Starting in France, I thought was an interesting choice.
Can you figure out why I started in France?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's because of the flights, but you went east. And so, like, the hardest thing in the world is to go east.
Yeah.
That messes with your time zones, everything.
Trust me, I know. I experienced it. But try and see, give it a couple seconds, see if you can figure out why I started in Paris and ended in Orlando.
As far as international is the furthest away. I don't know from the
Well,
route
my
from
guess
the
would
others.
be-
I don't know.
You've already done coast to coast, so you're familiar with that. So ending with those would be ideal. That's one thing I was thinking, but
I was just thinking that the others were kind of closer together, but I guess I don't know.
not really.
Yeah, I mean, we're between Hong Kong, Tokyo, and
Well, those
Shanghai,
three.
right? That's what I'm talking about.
Aren't that-
What else? What am I missing?
How long is the flight from Shanghai to Tokyo? Or
So so you can't actually fly direct from Shanghai to Tokyo, which is why I had to go
the other way.
Shanghai to
That's what I was
Hong
thinking.
Kong to Tokyo. So
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing with China's
Right.
transit without visa program. But I think it was
That's
like
what I meant.
3.5 hours from Hong Kong to Tokyo.
Okay.
It was about 12.5 hours from Paris to Shanghai,
right.
about 10
Yeah.
hours from Tokyo to LA, and it was about 9 or so from Atlanta to Paris.
Yeah.
So the reason
I guess you're going with the wind too.
Yeah. So the reason is because I didn't want to burn an extra 9-hour flight mid-challenge.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to fly an extra lap around the world, essentially, to go fly somewhere and start there. And then, if I'd flown to Shanghai to start in Shanghai and then go Hong Kong, Tokyo, LA, Orlando, Paris, then I got to fly back home from Paris.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
If I started, even if I started in Orlando and ended in Paris, then at the end of the challenge, I've got a 9-hour flight ahead of me. So
and you wanted to circumnavigate the globe. Let's just be honest.
I mean, that's part of it, but the big thing here was I wanted to get that long, overnight flight and that jet lag out of the way ahead of the challenge. Have a couple of days in Paris to acclimate, to kind of reset before I started, and then to know at the end of the challenge that I was only going to have a short little, hour-long flight to hop home up to Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I did it that way. And believe it or not, I never even considered another route, another macro route. Now, the original plan was Paris to Hong Kong to Shanghai to Tokyo. But again, I had to change that because there's no direct flights from Shanghai. Right. And you can't, if it had connected through mainland China or through Hong Kong, which is what all those flights did, it would have violated China's visa-free transit program, where you have to come from country A, go to China, and then transit on to country C, and connections count. So if I'd flown Paris to Hong Kong to Shanghai to Tokyo, but that Shanghai to Tokyo flight connected through Hong Kong, for their purposes, it would count as a Hong Kong to Shanghai to Hong Kong, which you can't do, and it would have violated, and bad things would have happened. And the goal was to avoid bad things in China.
Especially in China, where they'll just lock you away in a hotel for a couple of weeks while they figure it out. So
no, this program was so underused that when I got to the border control immigration in the airport, they had to go find people to open up that section of immigration to process me through, and it took like 7 agents, like 45 minutes or an hour to figure out how to get all the stuff done to process me through to get me in. Wasn't that anything was wrong. It's just that it wasn't a thing that they were really doing.
Nobody's done it. No one's been doing it. Yeah.
So,
you're just breaking all kind of records.
Yeah.
Was that the scariest kind of moment you had through all this travel? Did you have any kind of close calls or any?
I mean, that was definitely one of those, I had done as much research as I possibly could have done on what those requirements were, and I was confident that I was within those requirements. But there's always that fear kind of nagging in the back of your head that I've missed something, that I've screwed something up, that for whatever reason, there's a reason or something that I'm not going to qualify for, and they're going to find a reason to deny me, and then I got to figure out what on earth to do.
Right.
But I was very thankful that no, the research was accurate. I did have that all right, and I was able to process through and all that. It took a little while, but
whatever your main purpose was trying to save time, though, right? And then when they had to scramble and get everybody.
If I remember correctly, you didn't plan to do any rides that day. You skipped the parks altogether.
So I basically lost an entire day going from Paris to Shanghai.
Yeah.
Because the flight was that Thursday night from Paris, and so then it was overnight, but it didn't land in Shanghai until almost 5 p.m. Friday night, local time. And then by the time I got through security, immigration, all that, got my stuff, and then got to the park, I had enough time to go down to the buffet in the hotel, have a decent dinner, and then go to bed. That was the day. And if I had tried to plan to go to the parks, it would have been a bad time because I would have been so anxious through all of that. I would have been stressed, and I was very, very glad that I just said, you know what? This is a travel day. I've got Saturday. It's going to be busy, but I'm paying out the nose for Premier Access, and I'm going to use it. I have a strategy. I'm going to go hit Tron and then hit the jetpacks and work my way through all this other stuff. And even though I screwed up pretty badly that morning with my timing and the bus and all that, I was still able to execute my strategy, get to the park, do the stuff. I didn't get as many rides on Tron as I was hoping to get, but I got enough. And then, I had a good time.
Yeah, I think you said you spent like $300 on Premier Access that day.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, that was a very that's like Universal Express money. But when even Dumbo has an hour-long wait, it's like you spend that money.
Wow.
Like you're there for one day, you budget for it, and you spend it because the time is more important. I can earn more money. I can't recreate that time in Shanghai.
Right.
I'm there for one day.
Do you think that even though he's been ousted, Chapek got a little call and was a little happy to hear that you spent that $300? I think he did.
I don't know, but
He didn't benefit this time from it.
But I will say, I don't know if y'all noticed, somebody tagged me on it. But Bob Iger actually liked a couple of tweets related to my challenge.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah. So
Wow.
he liked my tweet when I finished DCA, and then he liked another tweet after I finished that somebody quote tweeted my final ride and said, "Somebody make this man a Disney legend at Bob Iger."
Oh, wow.
And he liked that tweet. So it's like, hey,
Does
look,
that make you a Disney legend officially?
I guess, Bob
Then
Iger
go on
liked a
Main
tweet
Street.
asking him to make me a Disney legend, so I guess I am officially
Hey,
a
just take
Disney
it.
legend. I'll take
Just at least get an invite to Club 33 or
it.
something.
Hey,
Yeah,
it's like,
dude.
hey,
Dinner with Bob.
yeah, Bob, you got all my details. Hit me up. Like it's
I
all
think
in the
he's
database.
a listener of our show. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. He's a silent listener, but
Right.
You never know.
nice.
They listen
out
to
there,
see when I'm
I
going to
appreciate
Disney so that they can make sure they prepare the cash registers.
Quick question about Tron, since you've ridden both now and like within a few days of each other. Is there any difference whatsoever? And which one's better?
So there are three main differences that I noticed between Shanghai Tron and Magic Kingdom Tron. First, all the audio on the ride in Shanghai is in Chinese, and ours is in English.
Of course.
That's a difference from the two Ratatouilles, where the audio is exactly the same, where it's
Right.
50-50 French and English.
Mhm.
And I'm sure, Jason, that you noticed in Paris that all of the rides were roughly 50-50 French and
Yep.
English, and it alternated about every other line on all the narrations.
Or one character was French and one
Yes.
was English.
But again, it's every other line essentially because they go back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. I mean, I guess I get that decision, but I would have rather it just all been in French.
Yeah.
Then the back and forth was really jarring to me.
I think it
Yeah.
still goes back to when it was originally Euro Disney.
Yeah.
It was intended to be.
But these are even the new
French.
rides, like the Flight Force. Iron Man is French.
Yeah.
But the AI assistant is English.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Spider-Man was the same way, and Tom Holland was French, but the AI was English. Yeah, again, it's every ride in France. If there was one I missed that isn't this, I don't know. Let me know. But
Yeah.
it literally felt like every ride, it was either line back, like the ghost host narration or whatever in Phantom Manor. It was just like every other line went back and forth. I think it was the same character.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then all the other rides, if it was multiple characters, like one was French, one was English, and they just went back and forth every other line, changing languages, and that was just it was jarring for me. But
Yeah.
So that was one difference in Tron.
the second difference is the pre-show effect that we have with the glass that's
Mhm.
opaque with the projection on it, and then it goes transparent as the launch happens. I don't know if when I rode Tron, they just weren't funneling people through that, or if it doesn't have it, but I did not experience that in Shanghai. And I
Okay.
thought that was a really cool thing to do here in the States. That said, the pulsing of people in through that during the D23 preview, they kept having issues where the number of people in the queue after that wasn't quite what they needed, and so they were sending empty seats and things, even though there were a bunch of people backed up outside,
Right.
because they're
yeah.
only sending a certain number of people through each pre-show. So
Right.
I think managing that internal crowd for grouping purposes is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but it is such a cool effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. The third difference was they didn't have lockers in Shanghai.
They
Instead,
have a little grocery cart or whatever.
when you got to the bottom of the ramp, the cast member would have this plastic rolling cart thing that had a top shelf and a bottom shelf, and everybody would put their bags on the cart, and then they would push it through the door to the unload station. And when you got off the ride, they'd have that cart there, right there for you, and you'd pick up all your stuff and you just walk off. And it was
Yep.
so much easier. I hate the lockers. I
Yeah.
had nothing but issues during the D23 preview with those lockers. every time I tried to use them, I had a different problem. Whether it was that my bag didn't fit because they didn't make any of the lockers bigger than like a purse size, or my backpack strap getting caught on the load side and then having to have a cast member walk around to open the other door to let it loose. One time when I scanned in to claim the locker and opened it up, somebody else's stuff was in it, but there's no metric to unclaim the locker to get another one. So then when you try to go tap on another locker, it's like, no, you can't do that. You've already got this other one. So I had to get a cast member, and their solution was to hand me one of the little RFID cards to just get a new locker.
Some things to tweak.
You got to remember the number.
Right.
And then I had another one where I had a locker, but the door wouldn't actually latch shut. And again, because I'd claimed it, my magic band wouldn't release and let me do something else. So again, I had to get another card. So it's literally like, I'm a tech savvy person.
Yeah.
Like, I am a nerd, but I had issues with these things. It's like, lockers should not be this complicated and frustrating. I don't know what the deal is.
It's Disney tech.
But man, I would have much rather had the carts at the bottom of the ramp. It would have been so much easier. And think about how much they have to staff. Like, they need multiple staff on either side of those lockers to deal with issues.
Yeah.
And they don't have like a little iPad where they could just go boop and pop something open for you. That's the other. It's like they need to have like that control there.
How long before they get someone to push a cart?
I don't know that they
6
will,
months.
but man, that would be that. It's just sometimes the low tech solution just is the right way. It's easier. It's simpler. Yes, you have to have a staff person to manage that. Yes, people in America are more anal about people stealing stuff or nonsense or whatever. But if you do it right, you have a cart as you group people. You group one dispatch at a time. They put all their stuff on the cart. You walk it through to unload. And it's supervised by cast members the whole time. And then you pull that cart up in front of the train that's about to unload, and that's the cart that they have access to. They carry their stuff and they leave. And it's simple. It's stupid simple.
Yeah, I question whether they did that originally, though, because you remember their Tron there was built in like, what, 15?
16, I think.
16? So they probably didn't have any restrictions probably on the stuff to carry out, if I had to guess.
Well, you couldn't have like your backpack and stuff on the ride.
No, you couldn't do that.
So, but this is for all that stuff. But I will say, they wouldn't even let me ride with my hat, putting it in the little center console. Like, they were giving me crap about that. It's like, yeah. So I could put my phone in there, and one time I almost left my phone in there because I'm not used to pulling it out of my pocket and sticking it in something else.
It's because they have this video of this guy that one time lost his sunglasses on Slinky Dog and just stopped the train for an hour.
Really? You're gonna throw that at me?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I tripped a sensor on Slinky Dog for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I had to do the shame while they got the claw out and got it off the track. Yeah.
So that's why
Whose sunglasses are these?
That's why when I was on there last, he wanted to make sure I was holding on to the GoPro. That's what he was, because it was probably you had the reason for that, Adam.
You're welcome.
So speaking of GoPros, so this whole challenge, I had a GoPro strapped to my backpack strap,
right?
So that I was capturing like what I was walking around and seeing, and then I could basically just narrate my thoughts and strategy into that. What I'm going to do with that footage, I have no idea, but I captured a lot. Yeah. And then I had on all the rides, I had my 360 GoPro strapped to my wrist to capture kind of the ride footage and me on the rides. And they let me ride with that on my wrist on Tron Shanghai.
Yeah.
Obviously not in the States. You can't do that. It's because it's chest mount.
Chest strap, which is kind of stupid. But
what was so interesting is in Tokyo, where they're so anal about filming and phones and cameras and hats and all that stuff, they tell you got to take your backpack off. When you're 10 minutes from getting on the ride, you still got to go down a ramp and then be grouped and like backpacks off. You got to put your phone away. It's got to be in a pocket and whatever. And like super anal about all of that. Not a single time did any of them ever say anything about the ding dang GoPro strapped to my hand.
Wow.
Apparently that was never an issue. And I was expecting like pushback or whatever. Not a single beep the whole time I was in Japan. So that was a very pleasant surprise. The only rides that they gave me crap about for the wrist-mounted GoPro were the RC Racer clones in Paris, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. Yeah, they wouldn't let me ride with the wrist strap GoPro on those for some reason. But every other ride.
How long did you wait for that RC
no
Racer
sense.
ride? I'm curious.
single rider and Premier Access most of the time.
Oh yeah, they had a single rider. I remember because I was there. It was like that was a long wait for a very, very short ride.
Yeah, it's not a great ride. Now, I did actually do standby for RC Racer when I was in Walt Disney Studios, and that was just because it had rained and just reopened. And when I got in the line, they hadn't reopened single rider. But by the time I got on the ride, they had reopened single rider. So I just barely missed the timing on that. But it wasn't very long at all. So I was on that at 5:24, and the prior ride was at 5:09. So like even with that, it was 15 minutes from ride to ride.
Yeah,
that's nothing. Yeah, I've had a few people ask what my longest wait was. I think I legitimately think it was that 45 minutes for Dumbo in Hong Kong, where I got my Mickey bar. I don't know that I waited longer than that for anything else.
Well, so you there are a couple of rides that are in like multiple parks. Slinky Dog Spin.
It's basically they cloned that Toy Story Land.
Yeah.
More or less in like 3 or 4 parks.
Parachute Drop.
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
Magic Carpets. I didn't even ride that when I was in Paris. I was like, why was that even there?
I have absolutely no idea how they figured thematically that the Magic Carpets belonged there, because it's right next to Crush's coaster on one side, and then something else on the I'm like, how it's got like a genie with like a megaphone kind of thing, like he's directing a movie.
Right.
And I'm just
That's their justification.
Like what? But like how? What the?
Just slap a megaphone in his hand.
So you probably didn't hear my Disney. You've been busy. My Disney Paris trip report. But my sister, who's not a big Disney person but has gone to Disney World, said it felt like Disney just sort of threw up and just like put stuff everywhere. It's just like this goes. We have this ride. We'll put it here, and it's like you're doing Roller Coaster Tycoon or Planet Coaster, and you're just like, oh. They want a new ride. I'll plop down a spinner right here. Let's just do that.
Yeah, I will say probably the biggest frustration I had at Disneyland Paris was that every single path was a dead end. That entire park. It's all dead ends.
Were you in the labyrinth the whole time? There's other parts to the park other than Alice's Labyrinth.
No, but like you go around to the left where you've got Phantom Manor, and that's a dead end.
Yeah.
Then you loop back around up to the top, and there's a dead end at the train station, and there's another dead end for a playground, and there's another dead end for the Indiana Jones coaster. And then you loop back up, and you get Pirates, you go through Fantasyland, then you spur up, and there's a dead end at the Casey Jr. and their really, really awful rendition of the Canal Boats. Did you do that?
No, we didn't do that.
The Storybook Land Canal Boats, like it's got the fairy tale stories with the miniatures and all this. This was boats with miniatures, no story, no narration, no music. It's just very, very slow-moving boats that stop
like it fits with the rest.
Yeah, it's just like, what's the point of this? I don't. But that was
that was my feeling on Cars Road Trip. I mean, it did have Catastrophe Canyon, but I was when I got to Cars Road Trip and I saw the queue area they had set up. I was like, has this ever been full?
I suspect that when it was a pseudo studio tour type thing, that it had more to it. I hope it had more to it. I haven't watched a POV. But yeah, that was, and I feel bad being less than kind about the ride because the cast members there were so friendly and excited. Yeah, they found out what I was doing. They were cheering me on, asking me about it. But the ride itself, I'm just like, what were they thinking? Like, who thought this was a good idea?
And it's way off in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, you have to intentionally go find it.
Yeah, it's just, there's so many things. But the dead ends just drove me nuts at Disneyland Paris. That was, and then the worst part was at the end of the night when they shut everything down 2 hours early or whatever for the fireworks. And if you're at Pirates and you want to get to Phantom Manor, or you want to get back to the entrance or loop around to Discoveryland, you have to go just all the way massively out of your way to get to anything. That's super frustrating. I don't know if you experienced that when you were there, Jason, but
yeah, no, I had more people I was dragging around too. I had a 70-year-old woman, my mom, who I had to bring her as well. So, all right, I have a quick rapid fire for you. I know we're all over the place. All right, we got 12 parks. You've been to all of them. Let's go each one. Best ride at each park. Start with your first part. Disneyland Paris. Best ride.
Disneyland Paris, I loved their pirates. I think that's the best pirates.
Agreed.
I was blown away by it. My first ride, I was like, this is a little weird. It's a little different, but I rode it a couple more times. I was like, yeah, this is unquestionably the best pirates. It has the best pacing. It has all the stuff that you want from your classic pirates. And it has, that bonus drop at the end. The cool Barbossa skeleton effect thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's the best pirates.
I ate at that restaurant also.
Nice.
All right.
I did not. I should have, but I did not.
The studios, what was the best?
I think it's...
Is there even one?
Yeah, so I think I have to give it to Tower with Ratatouille as a second. That Tower, I didn't like a lot of the spins that Disneyland Paris put on the rides, like where they tried to add their own little twist to things.
Yeah.
I thought the creepy little girl thing that they did on Tower was cool. I thought that added a little thing, and the ride program was really long and intense and very good. I did enjoy Ratatouille as the original, but I give it to Tower.
I don't like the fact that you don't. I still want the build
The original effect.
Yeah, see, but that's because you're a Disney World stan and I'm a Disneyland stan.
Yeah.
It's like for me, I like the capacity that you get.
You just want to
from
back up and go up and down.
Yeah, like I'm here for the up and down. Now I will say the original, you get more suspense. There's more story and all that.
Right.
I just want to get to the up and down part. Like that's what I'm there for.
So real quick, that one in Paris, how similar was it to the what used to be in California? Did you do the one prior to Guardians?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I think it's essentially the same ride system and everything, where it's got the 2 levels with 3 shafts.
Right.
But they added this extra, creepy ghost girl effect thing to parts of it to kind of plus it up a bit. It's still the same storyline. They emphasize the little girl.
Okay,
in the family that gets,
Okay. Well, because I always like the effect in the one in California when they zap you. I thought that was always kind of neat that they had there, that they could have potentially added to any of them, really, if they wanted to, I would think. But I always thought that was kind of neat. But anyway.
Yeah, so that one I think takes the top. But I did like Ratatouille. It was cute. I don't know that it's e-ticket, but it was nice to ride the original. I rode the original in Paris before I did the one in Epcot. So same deal as I did with Tron.
To be fair,
in
I've never finished the one in Paris because I got evac'd
You
right
were on
before
the
the final scene.
Nice.
And so I've been evac'd in both Ratatouilles actually. So
Nice.
I got evac'd. I've got evac'd in Disney World as well. So
Okay.
Jason, this may be on your list of questions, but is the Studios Park at Disneyland Paris the worst park Disney's ever built?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's no rhyme or
Pretty
reason
much.
for any of it, and the stuff that they've done to try to make it better in recent years just doesn't.
Yeah.
The Avengers Assemble Flight Force nonsense is just there is no reason for that to exist. All they needed to do was take the money that they spent on that and just buy the trains with the vest restraints like they did for their Space Mountain. That would have helped a lot with the headbanging. But there's no, you can't see anything on the projections in the ride. Like they just, you spend a ton of money for this pre-show and stuff, but the ride, there's nothing to the ride itself. It's just blurs of streaks of light. It's the same problem I have with Hyperspace Mountain. It's like you get a few shots of like some laser things going, but then other than that, it's just like, hey, there's some stars, there's some spaceships. Yeah, woo. Throw all that out. I don't like it. Give me the classic Disneyland Space Mountain with that classic music.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's what I want my Space Mountain to be.
yeah.
And Tokyo, it's the same Space Mountain, but doesn't have the music. Hong Kong is the same Space Mountain, and they have it converted to a hyperspace. And that frustrates me because it's the best space.
Yeah.
They need the music. But any best rides. So, yeah.
So we're at Shanghai. That's right.
I think I have to give it to Tron.
Okay.
Their Pirates is cool. It's very unique, but I'm an AV guy, and I noticed the imperfections in the projection mapping. It wows you on first ride, but I'm too anal to...
I bet it looked good back when they opened it. It's probably
I'm sure
I bet
it
it's
did,
probably like Flight of
Offset.
Passage where the projector is way out of whack
Starting to get
now.
out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily out of whack, but it's just I think they over-relied on projection mapping for things that could have or should have been practical. I think they just overdid it a bit. Now there are some really cool practical elements to it. You have big ships. You've got you're in what's essentially a trackless ride vehicle, but it's a boat. And I have no idea how they pull all that off, but it's super cool. Yeah, so it's a very, very cool and impressive ride. Absolutely, you have to do it. But I don't think that that's the Pirates that I want as my everyday Pirates. I want the Paris one.
I was sure you were going to say Dumbo for that part, but never mind. All right. So now you went to Hong Kong, top ride in Hong Kong.
It's between Big Grizzly and Mystic Manor.
Okay.
Mystic Manor is like the most adorable dark ride ever.
It's pretty cool looking. Yeah.
It's super awesome. The effects are cool. You get a little bit of variety depending on which car you're in.
Yeah.
It's a nice, fun, dark ride that's not trying to be IP tied. It's not trying to be an e-ticket. It's just trying to be its cool little thing. We need more rides like that.
We need more non-IP. I totally agree with that.
And the same can be said for Big Grizzly. That is true. I said it, I think, on Twitter, and I've said it to a couple other people. It's like if Big Thunder Mountain and Expedition Everest have a love child.
Right.
It's a really, really fun ride. And I think
the track switches.
Yeah. So you go through, and it's got kind of this basic Big Thunder mine train kind of start. And then you get to, you go up like the second lift hill, and then partway up the lift hill, you stop and you roll backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through, it's got a track switch, and it's got a backward section. It's way more mild than I was expecting it to be. Like I wanted like a slightly more aggressive kind of pop, give you a little bit more energy in it. But my guess is they were overcompensating because the backward section of Everest is so intense. They probably just made that overly mild just to be safe. But then you get to the transition scene where you've got the bears that set off the dynamite. And I love the fact that they have animatronic bears. They set off the explosion, and they do this turn and look like, and then you get this launch. And it is one of the most aggressive Disney launches. It's a great launch, and then that whole last third of the ride is fast-paced, aggressive, really fun, and just one of the best Disney coaster experiences. I really, really, really enjoyed that.
And you're a coaster enthusiast, so that's
I am.
From
that was really fun. I really liked that ride. And there's just so much else that they did at that park that was cool and unique. Their Jungle Cruise ride, go watch a video of the finale of that. That's special. Their pan is, I think they have a pan. One of the pans is Shanghai and Tokyo. They didn't have one in Hong Kong. But basically all the pans that are outside of the U.S. are way better than both the pans we have here, just for what it's worth. And they all do a few things slightly different. But at Hong Kong, definitely, Big Grizzly and Mystic Manor. But I will say, just as an aside, one of the things that I've been told to look out for is how awful the Ant-Man and the Wasp Nano Battle ride is. It's just like, this is just lazy theming. It's just super basic. And I had so much fun on that ride. Because you're shooting at these like digitized target things, but it's all progressive. It's like you shoot at a target and that opens up another target. And you shoot at that and it opens something else. You get a combo of things and you get kind of like a big bad target thing to hit. And so it's very engaging. Like, you don't care that there's not a bunch of color and a bunch of other stuff because you're so engaged in shooting all the targets. I had a blast on that. So, shamed all the haters.
You give me a ride and they just put classic Duck Hunt with the original NES gun, and I might have a blast too. So
yeah.
All right, so next up was Tokyo Disneyland.
Tokyo Disneyland, this is no contest. The Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast. That is the most impressive animatronics I have seen anywhere. That takes the cake. That's the top. That's the pinnacle. And there are so many of them throughout the ride. From the pre-show, where you've got a beast and a bell, and that beast emotes in a way that I did not think you could make an animatronic emote. Where like you see like this pain and sorrow in the beast's eyes from the way that they make the face move. It's wild.
Yeah.
They have Lumiere, multiple Lumieres throughout the ride that are animated and move in a way that feels so true to the character. That's super impressive. If you watch a video, it feels like all the scenes go on for way too long. But when you're on the ride, you are so glad that you have that time to be in that environment and see everything and see the animatronics and experience it in the room. It doesn't translate well to video, but the animatronics themselves are just mind-blowingly awesome.
Oh yeah.
That was a ride I happily repaid, $15 to $20, whatever it was, for more Premier Access to ride it again and again. Happily.
So the way it worked there, could you do Premier Access more than once in a day?
Yes. The way it worked in Tokyo, and this was specific to Tokyo, was you could buy Premier Access once you entered the park and scanned in, and then you had to wait an hour, and then you could buy another Premier Access for a different ride. But there are so few rides that have it. Like in Tokyo Disneyland, it's Beauty and the Beast. It's the Baymax ride that's basically a clone of Alien Swirling Saucers, but Baymax instead of aliens. And then there's Splash Mountain. Those are the 3 in the park that you can get Premier Access for. And when you buy Premier Access, you pick your time slot, and then you have an hour window to use it. I did not test whether they had any grace. That did not feel wise to me, given the parameters that I was working under. So after you buy the first one, you have an hour window, and then you can buy another one, and then you have an hour window, and then you can buy another one. But you can't buy for the same ride that you're currently holding. So if I had a Beauty and the Beast from like 10 to 11 a.m., and I bought that, at 9 or whatever, then at 10 I could buy another one of the other 2 rides, but I couldn't buy another Beauty and the Beast. You have to wait until you use the Beauty and the Beast. And then after you use it, if there's other ones available, other time slots, then you could buy it. So what you definitely do not want to do is you do not want to buy a Beauty and the Beast Premier Access for the end of the day, because then you have no opportunity to buy more. You want to get that in early, and then you might be able to, maybe you buy a 9 to 10 a.m., and then maybe you could buy an 11 to 12 or a 12 to 1 or something, and maybe you could buy a 3 to 4, and maybe you could buy an 8 to 9. Like, it's a ride that you're going to want to do over and over, and it's worth it. So
I do want to go to Tokyo, that's for sure. I've heard that that's one of the best, but then you go to what I hear a lot of people say is the best park Disney's ever made, and that's Tokyo Disney Seas.
Tokyo Disney Sea is the most beautiful park Disney has ever made. It is gorgeous. Everything looks fantastic. But if you strip away the veneer, it is Tower of Terror, Soarin', Toy Story Mania, Indiana Jones, a crappy Indiana Jones adjacent but unthemed. It's the Indiana Jones coaster from Paris, but just smooth.
Yeah.
It's not a great ride. It's just built better in Tokyo. It's called Raging Spirits. And then they have Journey to the Center of the Earth,
right,
which is unique, but it's the test track slot car system. It's like those are the e-tickets in Disney Sea. I mean, it's fine, but it's when you strip away the beautiful veneer, it's just the same stuff that we're already used to.
I see.
So the supporting rides are a lot more like the stuff that you find around the pier at DCA. Like the whole kids section is just that kind of stuff.
I thought, wasn't it Tokyo Disney Sea that has the 20,000 Leagues-esque ride?
They do. They do. And it's better than the Nemo Subs ride, but it has Nemo Subs ride vibes. I mean, it's you're in this little thing.
Right.
You got to bend over at an awkward angle to look through the windows, and you're just kind of going through some water and seeing some stuff, and there's some storyline. There's a moment of peril, and it's just, it's cool to do, but it's not like, yes, this is the reason I should travel around the world to go visit this park.
Yeah.
It's now walking around Disney Sea feels like you're doing attractions because everything's so gorgeous, but the rides themselves, I don't think quite live up to the best Disney park ever hype, especially when you get something like Tower of Terror, where it runs the absolute weakest program ever known. Literally, this ride has shoulder belts.
That kind of defeats the purpose.
Because there's no airtime.
Oh, really?
Like, it doesn't drop aggressively enough for you to actually come out of your seat at all.
But I've heard that that out there people are like scared to death of that thing. So
yeah, they are. But the thing that blew my is they were running their Tower of Terror quote unquote unlimited program, which was supposed to be the more extreme, scarier version. And it was still by far the absolute weakest drop tower I've ever. It was like jumping jellyfish, levels of thrill.
Wow.
Like I was waiting for it to do something, and it was just.
So
over.
what was the best then at Tokyo Disney Sea?
Their Indiana Jones is very good. I think the effects and stuff work better than the ones that we get in Anaheim, but I haven't seen it since it came off refurb. And I've heard it's much, much better now in Anaheim. but because it's unique and you can't get it anywhere else, I'm going to give the nod to Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Okay.
Okay, so those are all the international parks. Now, these should be easy because you've done all these many times. Disneyland and DCA, best rides. Has it changed?
I don't remember what I said last time I ranked these, but I feel like just for the sake of expediency, for Disneyland, I'm going to go Space Mountain. I think that's my personal favorite. Rise is great, but I feel like I would rather Marathon Space.
Yeah, that's the problem with Rise, rewritability.
Yeah, that's a huge
reliability and rewritability.
Yeah,
all the above.
I mean,
all the R's.
So Disneyland has so much variety and so many great rides and very, very good versions of most of the ones that are common across a lot of the parks.
True.
But I think I'm just going to give it to Space. You get the combination of the fun coaster plus the great soundtrack, as long as they're not running the hyperspace overlay. And then that drops off, and maybe I go Thunder, maybe I go Pirates, maybe I go Mansion, but I can't go Pirates anymore because I've experienced Paris as Pirates. That's better. So, and I probably shouldn't go Mansion either because the Mansion in Tokyo Disneyland is better than our Mansion.
I know, but you have a history with Mansion. I mean,
I do have a history with Mansion.
It was the one that saved your Coast to Coast challenge. So
almost killed my Coast to Coast challenge,
but it saved it in the end.
It did.
We have that in common. It's the Orlando Mansion that ruined us. So
I know.
It's like
you
each have history with Mansion for different reasons.
Yeah.
That was actually the day that I met you. I think
really?
Nathan, was the day that Adam and I came up one short.
Oh
yeah.
And because we were sitting around. I remember because you had
at Casey's.
You ended up like 3 or 5 short. I forget where it was. Somewhere on that neighborhood. But you had wrapped up in Adventureland, and then we were sitting outside of
Casey's,
Seven Doors Mine Train. Well, we sit outside of Seven Doors Mine Train, waiting for everybody to get off, recapping the day, and then we went to Casey's. But
yeah, I remember that day. Yeah, I was not very good at my first however many runs that I did at Disney World. What a lot of people don't realize is before I started doing those runs, the only visits I'd ever had to Disney World were one day at Magic Kingdom when I was 4, which is where that picture of me on the Starjets came from.
Right.
Yeah.
And then 4 days, my senior trip in high school. And then in 2013, I did another 4 days where I basically did all the parks in Central Florida in like a week and a half. Between that in 2013 and my first challenge run attempt at Disney World, I didn't step foot on the resort. So when I started trying to do Disney World runs that March or April, whenever it was, I was coming in completely blind, completely green, and I'd only ever been to those parks that handful of days.
And there's some stuff about Disney World when you go run a challenge there that you would not do if you are a regular guest. You'd have to learn some wrinkles, like the Astro Orbiter wrinkles, the early closed.
How to navigate the fact that at the time they were doing early entry or letting people into parks and rides before the posted times.
Right.
I didn't know that my first time there.
Right.
So I thought I missed rope drop, but I missed rope drop not because I missed rope drop, but because rope drop was
not when they said it would be
way, way earlier. And I didn't know I needed to be there that much earlier.
Right.
So there's tons of lessons I had to learn. How to navigate the parks, how to do Fast Pass Plus and pull Fast Passes. I learned all of that on the fly on runs.
Right.
Which is it's kind of crazy to me, just how that all went.
And in that first run too, we thought we knew what we were doing, and we.
I thought I knew what I was doing because I crushed Disneyland so easily. I was like, I can walk into Disney World and do this. Nope.
Yeah, it's very different.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, you lose so much time with park hops. Okay, so we get to DCA. What's your favorite in DCA?
So I'm going to give that to Guardians, with Radiator Springs Racers as a close second.
Okay. I know that there was the one that broke down on you. That's not going to be your favorite, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I like the Golden Zephyr. It's a fun ride, especially kind of in the evenings. But man, that thing is so twitchy. That thing it goes down for the for wind and other stuff. But this time it wasn't a wind issue. Like they broke something. And like it stayed down for like 30 something hours after that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they're gonna have to like come in with cranes and get up there, and they weren't gonna do it during park hours.
So I know that your second day at Disneyland, we'll get back to your favorites for a second. Your second day at Disneyland, they reopened Indy, but you didn't go back to Disneyland because it wasn't open while you were there. If you hadn't overslept, were you still going to try to fit Indy in? Because you didn't know it was going to open.
Well, right. So initially when I was looking through all this, I knew that Friday that Grizzly was coming off of refurb.
Yeah.
And so I planned to be in DCA Friday morning so that I could get that. And I checked, and at the time I planned, both the Canoes and Columbia were scheduled to operate during the week, that whole week, meaning that I would have been able to get them on Thursday. And then a week or two out from the trip, I rechecked, and those were going to be not open on Thursday, but open on Friday. And then the Indy news dropped. And there was I was looking at it, and I was like, there is no possible way that I can manage this to get 4 rides done that are only open on Friday and not open on Thursday, given the park hop restriction and given their posted hours. Because Columbia doesn't start running until 11, and it doesn't load the first cycle with guests until somewhere between 11:20 and 11:30, because it takes so long to pull it out, park it, get everybody on, and then dispatch. And then the Canoes opened at like 10. Grizzly actually didn't open with the park. It opened several hours late. But looking at it in the plan, I was like, there's no way that I can think of that I'm going to be able to get all 4 of these and still make that 2 p.m. flight out of LAX, which is an hour away.
Right.
So like I was going, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I figured I was going to have to punt to the red eye just to be able to get those in, because I also didn't think I was going to be able to get all of Disneyland done that Thursday night. So,
which you did.
I did.
It was a miracle at the end.
I was flabbergasted that came together. Like I couldn't have imagined this. Fantasyland wasn't clearing out. It did not clear out, and then all of a sudden, poof, it cleared out, and just right at the perfect time, I was able to go bang, bang, bang through the last few rides. And Toad broke down, and then it reopened, and I was able to get right on it right when it came back up. That was a miracle. Yeah. And so I end the night on this super high note, and I'm like, okay, I'm done with Disneyland. Like, every ride that was open when I was here at Disneyland is done.
Yeah.
And then I had my reservation the next day for DCA. And the thing is, there was a period of time that I was like, okay, well, maybe I change that, and I try to get DCA done Thursday afternoon and some of Disneyland, and then start the day the next day at Disneyland so I can get Indy and get the Canoes and the river and get Columbia and all that, and then hop after 11 and go get Grizzly and then go to the airport. But the thing is, once that Indy reopening announcement came, and given that it was, spring break stuff, there were no reservations available for me to safely drop my DCA reservation and be guaranteed I was going to be not just be able to pick back up a Disneyland one, but if that failed, to be able to make sure I had a DCA in hand.
Right.
So I couldn't take the risk of dropping that reservation to try to switch my plans around. Yeah. So once I got everything done at land that night, at that point, it was the goal is try to blaze through DCA in 3.5 hours the next morning and make the 2 p.m. flight so that I can sleep. Yeah. At that point, it was I ran the whole thing on 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be in that bed in Orlando that night, get a full night's rest, and then get up and go tackle Epcot. And then that didn't happen. I slept through all my alarms, and I wake up after the park is already open. And then by the time I get up, get everything packed, so that I can check out and get down into the park, the first thing I did was beeline straight to Zephyr, and it broke down right in front of me.
Yeah.
The thing is, under parkeology rules or every ride rules, that doesn't count. It ran. But the thing is, this wasn't a parkeology challenge. Yeah. This wasn't an every ride challenge.
It was your challenge.
It was my challenge. And I always said that this was every operating ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was never a thing. It was always every operating ride. The question that I had in that moment was, does that still count as operating for the purposes of this challenge? You know, if it's the thing that I went to directly, the first thing I did when I walked into the park, I went straight to this ride. I got in line, and in that time while I was standing there waiting to get on it, it broke down and it didn't reopen. Does that count as operating? And I was like, there's a part of me that wants to say, yes, because challenge rules and all that. There's a part of me that says I have all this time and energy invested, say no. But I knew I couldn't make that decision unilaterally. I wasn't going to make that decision unilaterally because that didn't feel reasonable or responsible or fair to make that call myself. And so the only thing I could do was I put it up to a poll. I said, hey, look, here's the situation. And the thing is, I didn't know when it broke down that it wasn't going to reopen. I didn't find that out until hours later. But when I found out, I went, okay, what can I do? Mm-hmm. Can I punt all of my plans at Disney World, shift everything, and try to do 13 days instead of 12? Basically stay that extra night, try to find a hotel. I didn't even know if that was going to be possible. Because again, spring break stuff. It was a weekend, was busy. Yeah, but okay, try to find a hotel, come back the next day. I had 3 days already booked in World, punt it and use the Monday. Could I still do that and still make it to my D23 Tron preview that Saturday night? I didn't know. Yeah. It's like, do I try? Or do I just accept that despite my best efforts from the time I got into the park till when I got to the ride, there was no way I could have gotten on it. And for that reason, it shouldn't count as operating, remove it, and keep going with the challenge. Yeah. And overwhelmingly, 81% of people said remove it and keep going. And that was the right call. Other than a few angry voices from the Every Ride community, everybody else has been completely aligned that was the right decision.
And to be fair, I saw there's still some Every Ride folks that supported you too. So
but the only people who weren't supporting me were people who were a certain subset of the Every Ride community.
Right. I mean, there's all. I think that if there's anything I would say to that is it's like these challenges, especially if they're not official. You sort of have to set your own rules, just like you set your own rules for your every attraction challenge. And Scott Kuhnke's done meet all the character challenges, and people make up all the challenges that they want. I think the biggest thing that only bothers me about that is it seems that we can't get out of our own way in the challenge community to not argue with each other about the stinking challenges. I mean, we do it in good fun here. We obviously sell Rafts or a Ride t-shirts, right? Yeah. So but I mean, to me, that's one of the things I like is the whole challenge is a lot of fun. And I've run both challenges. Parkeology to me is the hard mode. Parkeology to me is if you just want to purely go after the challenge, right? Yeah. Because they add the mainstream vehicles, they add the rafts, they make it it's
truly a challenge.
Very few people are ever going to complete Parkeology, right? Yeah. Every Ride is the accessible one, and they have all the other ones.
Why can't we just all be impressed at the feats themselves? I mean, because they're still pretty impressive on their own rights. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I think it's kind of silly. I mean, I know I've contributed to it in the past, but it's always in jest because the rafts, call them a ride or not a ride,
and I think that's a fair debate. I get it because fundamentally, the attraction at Disneyland is Tom Sawyer Island, or it's the Pirates Lair on Tom Sawyer Island. Some of the other parks, the attraction is actually labeled the rafts or the rafts to Tom Sawyer Island. I think for that's totally a ride because that's listed explicitly.
Right.
The one where the attraction is listed as the island or the Pirates Lair on the island, I get that. That's semantics. I'm fine with that as a debatable thing. Well, I don't think that should detract or whatever from anybody one way or the other. I generally will consider that a ride. I have run under the Every Ride rules and not counted it. But if you ask me, I think it counts.
At the end of the day, I will run both. I think Every Ride raises a lot of money. I think that Parkeology to me though, if I'm going to go for achievement, if I want to put a notch to the hard mode Parkeology, but I ran Every Ride with my son because I like that they have the points challenge. I like that it's accessible. Yeah. I feel like if I was to get someone into challenges, I would suggest they start Every Ride. There's also a really great community there of, for the most part, as you see. For the most part, there is a decent number of folks that'll be supportive and come cheer you on.
What I would suggest for people, if they're interested in getting into challenges, is don't get into one of the main branded challenges as your first foray into challenges.
Yeah.
Start with something like, I want to do all the mountains in a day, or I want to do all the rides in one park in a day. Make up your own thing first just for fun, to dip your toes into the water. Because going for one of these, all the rides at all the parks, it's a huge thing to bite off if you haven't done anything like it before. And for me, at least, what I've started to find is that I get more enjoyment out of coming up with interesting things to do that aren't necessarily being adjudicated by, somebody else, somebody's rules, this, that, or the other. I want to do it for the pure enjoyment of it. I did several, pseudo runs post-COVID where I just did the rides, but I wasn't running under anybody's banner.
Yeah.
And I had a blast doing that because it was just for my personal enjoyment and not because, I was trying to set an achievement or prove anything to anybody or anything like that. And I think if you're using challenges to enhance your park experience, to add another dimension, to go, hey, I want to do these rides that maybe I've never done before, or hey, I want to try to do every attraction in the Magic Kingdom in a day, and do some things that you've never done before. I think that's a really great way to approach it. And fundamentally, challenges should be for fun. A lot of people could do things if they're that way, but if you start with the big dogs, I feel like there's not that level of accessibility as much. And I do know that every ride has the points and the other things and all that, but I think just come up with something simple. Do your own little thing, have some fun with it, and then if you go, hey, I really want to get into this at a deeper level, then start exploring, the more, defined, existing kind of big challenges.
So the fun challenge that I did in a recent trip, and I don't know if you caught up with this, it is, I chose not to ride Rise because I didn't want to pay for it, but I rode everything else in Hollywood Studios and still made rope at Baseline Tap House at 10:30. So
So it's that kind of thing where you just go, hey, let me see what I can do.
Yeah.
Or even, shoot, the day before my big challenge started in Paris, I just wanted to see, because I was curious, how fast could I clear Walt Disney Studios from early entry rope until I got done? Could I get it done in under 3 hours?
Right.
The whole park. And I came a few minutes short, but pretty close to it.
it's because you stopped to look at the partner statue at minute.
Right.
It took a little time.
But it's stuff like that I think is just you find little fun things to do.
Right.
Maybe you only go for a couple of, like I've done a number of times at like California Adventure where it's just like I try to do an aggressive rope drop, spend the first hour and a half just trying to crank through as many things as I can, and then hit a brunch at Lamplight. And then at that point it's just a chill rest of the day. Like I don't think you have to do all of these things to this huge high level every single time. And I think you can get a ton of enjoyment out of these experiences if you just find something that you want to do. Yeah, and then you just do it. And if you succeed, great. If you don't succeed, hopefully you had fun along the way.
For what it's worth, both the times that Adam and I came up short by one ride and the time that I completed Parkeology, someone independently messaged the adjudicators, Ted and Shane, and accused us of cheating, and we had to defend ourselves. So it happens every single time.
I think that happens with every run, doesn't it? Seems that way.
I mean, and the thing is, there are people that do cheat. There's definitely been instances of people having spots held for them in places.
Yeah.
There have been people who have used exit passes on rides and not acknowledged it. There's been stuff that's happened. And again, that's part of why I say don't do it for the for the internet points. Do it because you're going to have fun doing it, and you know what you did, and you know that you did the thing regardless of what anybody else thinks.
Right. That's the thing. That's the end of the thing. It's like if someone cheats to get their name on the Parkeology or every website.
It's internet points. Like all you're getting is internet points.
Yeah.
What it doesn't. It's just internet points. Yeah. Like it doesn't get you anything in life. Your integrity is more important.
Although, to be fair, your challenge, I think you mentioned this either on the air or beforehand, that Bob Iger's liking your stuff, so I don't know. So that's a low. Those are some internet points.
So I will say, yes, I got the internet points from Bob Iger, and I did receive compensation from Disney in the form of a bottle of water, a Mickey pretzel, a cheese cup, and a Mickey bar.
Yeah.
And a couple
that was
souvenir
at the end of
pens.
Spaceship Earth, right?
Sounds
Yeah,
fair.
it's a combination between Spaceship Earth and Astro.
Yeah.
Spaceship Earth was the bottle of water and a harmonious Spaceship Earth pen.
Yeah.
And then Astro was the Mickey pretzel, the cheese cup, and the Mickey bar.
Nice.
There you go. So you got
Yeah.
basically what you get at the after hours events. So
I mean, I guess, yeah.
Nice.
And it was a really nice gesture.
It
I
really
really
was.
appreciated it. But like for all the people that were like, oh yeah, he must have had like VIP help or cast members walk him into the entrance. Or, no, none of that.
if anybody, I mean, I did one of our most listened to episodes, I should say, is the time we did the VIP tour. And I'll just tell you, you're not gonna do it much faster with a VIP tour because you got to get a tour guy that's gonna hustle. And they ain't gonna hustle.
Here's something I would love to see. Like this is a piece of content right here. Take a VIP tour and take an experienced challenge runner
and race them.
and race.
Yeah.
Have the experienced challenge
That would
runner
be
try to
cool.
do as much as they can as fast as they can, and then have somebody with the VIP tour guide who maybe isn't an experienced challenge runner but wants to try to do all the stuff and is going to push them, but not pushing aggressively, challenge strategies per
The
se.
thing is, you just have to book 2 VIP tours because the VIP tours are minimum 7 hours, max 10. So if you want a whole day VIP tour, you got to buy 2 of them.
I mean,
And that would cost how much, Jason?
that's cheaper.
Well,
than
I think they're up to like $800 an hour now.
Uh-huh.
So,
depends,
like,
on the day.
It would. So you're saying it would cost less to do Nathan's challenge in 12 days and
Yeah.
12 parts in 12
yeah,
days?
I think I saw you. We haven't even finished all your favorite rides, but I think we saw that was like you said all in was somewhere neighborhood of 12 grand or so.
Yeah, 12 grand for the challenge, and then I spent a little bit extra for the extra vacation on the front and the back end and souvenirs and stuff like that.
Did you splurge for any first class cabins so you could sleep better, or no?
Yeah,
business
so-
class?
The number is my out-of-pocket cash expenditure, which includes first class from LA or from Tokyo to LA, because I knew I needed to
Yeah.
sleep on that leg, because I was going from basically a half day in Tokyo Disney to a 12-hour insane run at Disneyland,
Yeah.
and that's the best I've ever slept on a flight in my entire
I'm sure.
life. But I also paid for a couple other flight segments and points. So yes, that's my total out-of-pocket cash spend, but it's also basically what I would have spent if I'd paid for economy with cash the whole trip, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I did upgrade. They offered me at check-in like $350 to upgrade to premium economy for the flight to Shanghai. Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
bet.
when I booked the ticket, it was like several $1,000s to get premium several thousand more to get premium economy, and like 10 grand more for first class. So yeah, $350 upgrade for a 12.5-hour flight. Yes, please.
But it sounds like Shanghai is where they just try to suck you dry of money because they took your $350 and then another $300 for fast passes. So
Yeah, but again, it's a busy park, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, totally.
all right, so favorite rides at Disney World. All right, let's start with Epcot.
So I got my first couple of rides on Guardians,
Hey.
and it's really cool, but I haven't ridden it enough to say definitively it's my new favorite. My old favorite was Frozen, but let me tell you, after traveling around the world and seeing all the animatronics and things, those projected faces,
Don't hold
Oof.
up.
they do not
Yeah.
hold up. Once you've been to Tokyo and seen what they could do with Beauty and the Beast and those Belle animatronics, man, those projected faces, like the shadows and Elsa does not need a 5 o'clock shadow,
Right.
where she's got a chin
She
strap
does.
going on because the projectors aren't quite lined up or the brightness isn't matching the skin tone. And I'm like, because I like the ride, but man, they got to do better with those projection faces. They really do. They didn't bother me before, but they do now. And I don't know if that's a maintenance issue or if it's just the fundamentals of the projection faces. So it's probably going to end up being Guardians once I get a couple more rides in on it.
But
But I don't know if I'm quite ready to commit to that
Adam
just
and I are
yet.
Guardian stands, but John is not on board
oh no,
yet.
I like Guardians. You were just talking about when you talking about the best coaster in Disney World.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what do you have as the best coaster in Disney World?
Me, I'm still a fan of Everest. That's me. I'm an Everest
Okay,
too.
I think that's a fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, Everest is really great.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would still have it as my top one at Disney World, but I definitely did for a very, very long time.
Wow.
I need more rides on Guardians and probably some more on Tron before I really make my decision. But yeah, I think that's a fair standpoint to have. Yeah, I can't be mad at that. If you'd said Space Mountain, I would be mad at that. but no, I think Everest is fair.
Well, Jason, which Space Mountain is your favorite?
I mean, I've only ridden the Disneyland one once, and it was hyperspace when I rode it too. So
Yeah, you got to get
Okay,
back
I
out there
understand.
and ride with the proper music.
yeah. All right, so that was Epcot.
So then Animal Kingdom,
Yeah.
that I got to go Triceratops spin.
Really?
No,
I was about to say.
no, it's Expedition Everest.
Oh,
for
okay.
sure. Yeah.
I was about to say, I
Making
was like,
sure you're
really?
still awake.
Although I will say I did have a really great safari guide for my safari on that ride, who
Okay.
actually I'm boarding on the ride and I'm getting on and she's turning around watching people board and she goes, "Wait, are you the guy?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm the guy."
Yeah.
And so
She knows.
she's
Nice.
in my selfie. She was super awesome. Had a bunch of great animals and great narration. It was a great safari.
It was interesting to see just how many of the cast members knew about it, though, and were
Oh,
kept
yeah,
on
it was-
to
it was
it.
cr- I mean,
kinda
even-
cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, again, even people overseas,
Yeah.
which was crazy. But
Nice.
yeah, so I do think I have to give it to Everest because I am a coaster guy.
Okay.
Then, do you want to do Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios?
Which one did you finish first?
I
don't remember
finished
which one.
Studios first, but I started Magic Kingdom first.
No.
All right, let's do Studios.
Yeah, that's
We'll
what I was
finish
going to
with
say.
Yeah, so Studios, this one is not a joke, and you're not going to believe me, but Alien Swirling Saucers.
Oh,
that.
Okay, it's a unique choice.
then you're serious this time.
I am serious this time.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, I enjoy those rides. I hate the wait for it,
Yeah.
but there's a special place in my heart for that ride from my challenge run, Galaxy's Edge opening day, where we're led into the park at way before the butt crack of dawn, and we go in, and so I ended up with Scott Kumka at the Falcon. We were on like the third dispatch, and we're both running that day, and that was his first completion, and so that was really cool for both of us to do that day. We essentially did Hollywood Studios together, so we just kind of did that, and then we went our separate ways because we had different transport after that. But we get off the Falcon, and we're booking it into Toy Story Land, and there's all these cast members they're to stop people, so it's one way, so you can't get into Galaxy's Edge through there. Like, hey, like if you come this way, you can't come back. We're like, we know, we're good. Like, no, like you don't understand. Like if you pass this, you can't come back. It's like, we know, we're done. It's like it's 5:07 a.m.
Right.
What do you mean you're done?
Nice. We already did.
Like this is it is, and so we walk in there and we jump straight into Saucers as the second
That's
ride because
funny.
it was right there, and everybody at Saucers is flabbergasted. Why are you here? No, like what do you? But it's dark and they had all the lights and the music, and it was a super cool thing.
Yeah.
At 5
And
something
you were
in
the
the
only
morning.
ones there, I'm sure.
Yeah. We're the
Yeah.
only ones there. It's got the music. It's got the lights. That's a really cool ride with all the lights going, when it's dark out. But I just haven't spent much time at Studios with the lights or when it's dark
Yeah.
out to get the lights. But that's just fun. It's a fun ride. You get the music. You get the sliding back and forth all aggressively. And I've got that memory associated with it.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, since you said that ride, do you prefer to have aliens driving you or Baymax?
Or Mater.
Or Mater?
So Mater is better because it doesn't typically have a wait, but it also doesn't have covers or disco lights.
Yeah.
Baymax has songs that everybody in that ding dang queue sings along with and knows hand motions to.
Seriously?
And seriously, at Tokyo Disney, they all know hand motions to all the songs for the rides, the parades, all of it. They got it's the whole choreography.
Wow.
Interesting.
And that Baymax ride, it'll have an hour and a half wait, and it just turns into this dance party thing. Every ride cycle, everybody's all just super pumped to be there, and just even waiting in this hour-long line, and it's a crazy thing to see. So that's got the atmosphere, but it's the same ride for all three of them.
Right, yeah. I know, but it was like theming was the only thing you had to choose from, right?
Yeah,
So,
but Mater, I give the edge a little bit to Mater because it's easier to get on. You don't need a lightning lane for it. It doesn't offer
Makes
lightning
sense.
lane, and the weight's usually fairly reasonable. But having the cool kind of disco light thing, it is nice.
yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Fair
that
enough.
leaves us with Magic Kingdom.
So that leaves us with Magic Kingdom. Here's my issue with Magic Kingdom. Almost all of the rides at Magic Kingdom, I like the Disneyland version better.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that made it really hard to decide what ride I wanted to end this challenge on. Because, it's like, oh yeah, I like Thunder, but I like the Disneyland Thunder better. It's got the cool third lift hill. Space is cool, but man, the space at Magic is the janky, Matterhorn space and not the good space that they have, in Anaheim. I just went on down the list like that and say, So ultimately, I think the answer has to be Tron, with Astro being second because it's got the nostalgia as one the ride that came after the Starjets that I rode 30 years ago, but 2 now being the ride that I ended my global ride challenge on. It's the elevators suck, but at night during the fireworks with the thing lit up and spinning around, you got a nice cool breeze. That's a special experience.
Did they let you marathon it too?
They did. So so the original plan was to get my last ride during the fireworks, but I had so many people basically just waiting on the edge of their seat, hitting refresh every 5 seconds. It's like, I can't just sit here and twiddle my thumbs for an hour and a half. So I got in line and I went and I rode it. And then the plan was to go get back in line and then ride it again during the fireworks. But after the cast members did their whole celebration thing, they were like, you can just hang out over here, chit chat, and then we'll just let you go up when the fireworks start. Yeah, and they're like, you want to just stay on it? I was like, is that an option? Like, yeah, we can do that. And I was like, sweet.
That's cool.
So they had the whole like Tomorrowland lead was in on it, and they talked to their higher up to make sure, get approval that everything was cool, and they were cool with it. And so it had the full blessing of everybody in that management chain, and so they let me do that, and that was super special.
That was a really cool moment to end with. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
That was the special thing I was hoping that the last ride during the fireworks was going to be, and I didn't even care that it was a bonus ride and not the actual last ride because it was so special.
Yeah.
It was a nice way to cap it all off.
It really was.
Yeah.
It really, really was.
And then you went 8 right after that.
Well, after that, I went and I rode that several times. Then I got off, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do now, but the People Mover is right here, and there's no line. So I just got on the People Mover and rode that around several times, and just started trying to deal with the flood of messages and notifications on Twitter. Yeah. And then eventually, I was like, okay, I need to get off this. I need food. And at that point, the only thing that was open was Casey's.
Of course.
So I went and I got some Casey's.
Every challenge is not complete DV at Casey's.
Sure.
So that's how I finished up. And then I went and I crashed. And I woke up the next morning, tried to pull a 7 a.m. boarding group for Guardians, and it was gone in seconds. It didn't even make it to 7:01.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, dang it. Rolled over, went back to sleep, got up, made it in the park in time to pull one at the 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Then wandered around, ate some stuff from the festival booths,
Nice.
Rode Frozen a couple times, did Ratatouille, met some cool people in line for Ratatouille that started trying to tell me, did you hear about the guy that did 12 parks in 12 days?
Like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, you kind of look like him.
Did you let him in on the secret that you were that guy?
Yeah, they were super excited. They wanted to get pictures. They wanted to ride with me. It was super cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Awesome.
They wanted an autograph.
Oh.
For their kid. It was really cool. Like it was humbling. But
this is the most publicity I think the challenge community's gotten. So you brought it.
It's really been nuts.
Yeah. So that leaves us with one last question because I know we're getting late. Best interview and podcast you've been
on? Today. In the last couple hours.
in the last 2 hours, which one was the best?
I don't know. What's your biggest competitor?
Oh,
I don't know if we have a competitor.
We're in a league of our own.
Y'all are great because the thing is nobody else has approached this from the challenge community kind of perspective. Everybody's been like, okay, what's the travel logistics? What's the parks? What's the route? What's the whatever? But I like the looking at this through the lens of the history of the challenges and the challenge community and the way that we approach things from that
it's a
direction.
Small community, but it's a mighty community. I mean, once you've run one, you can really appreciate it. It's kind of like in any sport. Once you've played it once, it's easier to watch somebody do it.
Yeah,
because you're like, oh, that's an interesting choice. Like if you've never tried it before.
Yeah, and one of the things I really tried to do with this was to include what my thought process was as I was going through everything, why I was doing stuff, what my plans were. Because what I've learned is there's nothing more frustrating than watching along as somebody's doing a challenge and you don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it or why they've just suddenly disappeared for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Or
it's like it's
if
been
they
a long
don't
time
post
since
their
they posted.
Yeah, exactly. Like what happened to them.
Yeah.
Or if they don't post their lightning lane pickups when they get them, and then just all of a sudden magically it's like, boom, here I'm on the ride, here's my screenshot and go. It's like being able to know, like, okay, they've got this thing banked, they're going to be able to pull their next one at this, and you start strategizing at home along with them, and it's interesting to see like what you're doing versus what they're doing, and that makes it so much more engaging. So knowing that, I tried as much as possible to post what I was thinking and why I was thinking, and then when I changed my plans or called audibles, to acknowledge that, because I think that makes for a much more engaging experience. Yeah, and that helps again. Keep me accountable. It's everybody knows what I'm doing. I'm not magically pulling rabbits out of my hat anywhere.
Right. So I heard you earlier, and of course we saw a little bit that you've taken all this footage. I assume you plan on putting something together for your channel.
Oh yeah. I have many terabytes of footage.
Right.
And it is going to take many, 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 many hours of sorting.
I can imagine
to do anything productive.
I think that's where you and John would get along. That's John's dream right there. Is to have all
that
that
much footage.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that, but
yep.
I do have a good bit.
Right.
Yeah, but the plan is I may try to do something in the near term just to get something out.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like a recap type stuff.
It's basically just a super simple, here's all my on-ride photos with the ride, the timestamp, and just kind of a dunk through all the stuff. Get a nice little music track, throw some text on it, and just to get something out to recap the rides. And then I think the next priority after that is to get a high energy, very digestible and shareable produced video footage of all the rides. That's not like all the strategy, not the how I'm thinking, feeling. It's just a very quick, just bang, here's a ride, here's a ride, here's a ride, here's a ride. Quad box some stuff.
Something with music to it.
Yeah. And just basically take everybody through all the rides, but in video form.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the on-ride footage, but probably still just a few seconds per ride.
Right.
Because if you think about it, 216 rides, even at 1 second apiece.
Yeah.
So that's already 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's 1 second per ride. So you do 2, 3, 5 seconds, and that adds up very, very quickly. And I want something that's going to be high energy, quick paced, very digestible.
Right. I feel like by the time you're done, it's going to be like a Defunct Land video that's going to be like 4 hour long dissertation on Fast Pass.
Well,
yeah.
Did that go 4 hours? It went a long time. I'm trying to remember.
It was like an hour and a half, I think.
You know what the best thing about that Defunct Land Fast Pass thing was? So when he does the reveal that it's Animal Kingdom, and then what day he used to model it.
Yeah.
I was doing a run that day.
Really?
And I started at Animal Kingdom, and I cleared all of Animal Kingdom in like an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow.
So it's like, hey, we model all these lines, all this crazy stuff. It's like, I did all those rides in like 75 minutes that day.
That was back when you could actually pull Fast Pass, right? So,
well, you didn't need Fast Pass as a rope drop.
Yeah. I got you.
It's like you get it. They let you into Flight of Passage a few minutes early. You get that. You get on and off. You get to Navi. You go up. You do the safari.
Right.
You go walk onto Cali right when it opens. Single rider. Everest. You hit. Primeval and Triceratop and Dinosaur, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Those days. So you just bang, bang, bang. Because first thing in the morning. You're done before 8:30, 9 a.m., whatever it was.
Those
but
are good.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're going to have to wrap it up, but until the next time that you do a big challenge, and of course, I will possibly see you in the parks or running around. Maybe one of us will take on the global challenge, or until they open one on Mars. Once Elon puts
the universal challenge. Oh wait, we can't call it that.
No, you can't put the universal.
Trust me, I went around for a while. Yeah, before I landed on the Disney Global Ride Challenge, that felt that it encapsulated the scope and scale of the challenge appropriately.
Kind of to it.
Yeah. But I will say, just one more thing on the videos, I do plan to come out with some. I think it's going to end up being episodic of a more long form of each of the.
That'd probably be the
I
best
don't know
way
if
to
it's
do
going
it.
to quite be days or parks or resorts, but it's going to be several chunks, I think.
Right, do it in bites. It's a good idea.
But
Make it a series.
It's going to be a series, but it's going to be like a series of like 30, 40, 60-minute episodes. Like there's a lot to digest. I mean, Coast to Coast was a 40-minute video, and most of that was just pictures. So I've got all this footage and commentary.
Have you pitched it to Netflix yet?
Yeah, no. But I think
though.
realistically, like that's what we're looking at here to properly do this justice.
Yeah.
I'll have this digestible bang 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 through all the stuff, but then I think the only way to really do it is
Right.
more long form.
There's an audience for that for sure. Tell everybody to your channel.
Yeah, it's going to take a very long time before that's out though. But when it does come out, you'll be able to find it on my YouTube channel at A Coaster Story. That's A_coaster_story. And yes, the underscores are important.
Yeah.
Yes, they make it a lot harder for anybody to find me on YouTube, but the words A, coaster, and story are so generic that without the underscores, you wouldn't find me anyways.
Right.
So that's my Twitter handle. That's my YouTube handle. That's where I'm at. The good news is now, if you just Google Nathan Firesheets, all my stuff comes up, as well as all the news articles. So, yeah.
Or Nady Fuego Linens.
Nady Fuego Linens. Yeah, that was what they called me in the Barstool article.
Wow.
Read the article, don't read the comments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, whenever you mentioned something about the comments, of course, I had to go there and see some of the comments, or try to anyway.
Don't ever read the comments on Barstool.
No,
There's nothing good in the
Barstool.
comments of Barstool.
The thing is, it's not just the Barstool comments. Like any of the news articles, when they share them on Facebook or even on the news websites. Yeah, it's all the same stuff.
Trolls.
It's people on the internet are just awful,
Yeah.
but everybody on Twitter has been just super amazing. The people that have come and supported me and encouraged me, it's just been really, really encouraging to see this whole community coalesce around this crazy thing that I did.
Yeah, it was great. I'm glad you did it. I can't wait to catch up with you. And I'm feeling inspired for a run myself. Maybe not a global run. Maybe go back to Disney World sometime soon.
Yeah.
Or I have a suggestion. Come out to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Figure out a time that you can go out to LA, and let me know. I'll meet you out there. We'll go have ourselves a fun little time.
You can teach me the ropes on how to do a good Disneyland challenge.
Just let me know. We'll figure
Only
something
been
out.
for one day. Adam and I have been wanting to go to Disneyland.
It's in the works.
It's been a long time for me.
Yeah. Disneyland is my jam.
It
man.
is the best of them all. But anyway.
Well, you can, of course, find Nathan at A_coaster_story, as he said. Where can you find us if you want to learn more about us stuff?
Well, we have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's all at TWTM Podcasts. We have Spreadshirt Store. That is shop.spreadshirt.com/TWTM Podcast. We also have a YouTube channel, which is TWTM Podcast, or Traveling with the Mouse Podcast. And Adam, how about from there?
We have our website, travelingwiththemouse.com. We also have our email address, podcast@travelingwiththemouse.com. And our travel agent friend is also on our website if you want assistance booking your next Disney vacation or global challenge. I mean, you could try it.
Yeah, of course. So for John and Adam and Nathan, this is Jason. This has been Traveling with the Mouse, and we hope you'll join us on your next trip.
Around the world.
Yay.
Also, Nathan is the Forrest Gump of Disney World. That's the
Forrest
other one
Gump?
that
What?
inside the magic took the quote that he said from his